Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. This past New Year's Eve, I went away for the night with my two best friends and one of their moms. I was home for the holidays from college when my friend Sarah invited me to Palm Springs to celebrate New Year's with her mom and our friend Rachel. Since I didn't have other plans, I decided to go with them. We traveled to a lively city about an hour from where we lived, known for shopping and resorts. Our plan was simple: watch the ball drop at a block party downtown, have a few drinks at a bar, and enjoy a calm night. Since we were on the West Coast, the ball drop happened at 9. So, around 8, we left our hotel and started walking to the block party, which was only about a mile away. On the way, we passed by a lively bar and decided to stop in for a bit. We spent about 15 minutes dancing but didn't really get any drinks. It was a gay bar, and Sarah and Rachel, being gay, were excited to find the place. Even though it was about 90% men, they wanted to return after the ball drop. We continued to the block party, grabbed dinner, and had a glass of champagne. The ball dropped, and a DJ played music, so we spent about an hour dancing. Afterward, we decided to head back to the bar and stay there until midnight. Once we arrived, Sarah's mom bought each of us a drink but left shortly after because she was tired. By then, it was about 10:30. The three of us were having fun, enjoying our drinks and dancing. Rachel tried some of mine since she had never had that drink before. I always keep my guard up when drinking in public, but I felt safe in this bar because it was mostly gay men who I assumed had no interest in me. I went back to get a second drink, and that's the very last thing I remember. Everything after that, I learned from Sarah and Rachel. Almost immediately after taking my second drink, I told Rachel I wasn't feeling well and asked her to go to the bathroom with me. Just 10 minutes earlier, I had felt completely fine. Once inside the bathroom, I collapsed on the floor, barely responsive. Rachel panicked and somehow dragged my half-lifeless body out to where Sarah was waiting. Security saw my condition and assumed I was drunk, asking us to leave immediately. Sarah and Rachel decided to take me back to the hotel, which was about half a mile away. By this point, I was completely unconscious, barely making a sound. As they struggled to carry me, they noticed a man leaving the bar at the same time and walking near them. However, they were too focused on keeping me upright to pay much attention. At one point, I vomited all over everything, both of them, the sidewalk, everything. The next part of the story is what Rachel had to piece together from Sarah, as she also lost memory of some events. While they were struggling to hold me up, the man who had left the bar approached them. He started hitting on Rachel and trying to get her to grab a drink with him. Frustrated, she told him to leave, saying her friend needed help. But he wouldn't take no for an answer and kept following us down the street. Luckily, a middle-aged woman saw what was happening and stepped in, telling him, "Stop harassing these young women, or I'll call the police." He took off running. A few moments later, an off-duty EMT and his wife, who were also out celebrating, noticed us. The EMT checked me to make sure nothing was seriously wrong, then carried me the rest of the way to our hotel room since my friends were barely able to hold me up. Sarah and Rachel thanked him, and the couple left. Rachel's memory picks back up at this point. About 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. It was the EMT and his wife again. They had come back to warn us that a man had followed us into the hotel. They saw him hop over the gate and make his way directly toward our room. My friends immediately called hotel security, but they weren't able to find the guy. In the end, my friends didn't get a good look at him, but I'm 100% sure it was the same man from earlier. I spent the rest of the night vomiting and dry heaving. When I woke up the next morning, I was on the bathroom floor, surrounded by pillows and blankets. My last clear memory was being at the bar, getting that second drink. At first, I thought I had just drunk too much, but I had never blacked out before in my life. The amount I had, 2 drinks in 2 hours, didn't make sense for how completely knocked out I had been. We eventually realized that my first drink must have been drugged. Since Rachel had a sip of it, she was also affected, though not as severely. I'm certain that the man who talked to Rachel and later followed us was the one who spiked my drink. The scary part is that I have no idea how he did it. I got my drink directly from the bar and never set it down. My best guess is that whatever was used was already in the cup when I received it. Thankfully, I had amazing friends and kind strangers looking out for me that night. But even now, I still lose sleep thinking about what could have happened if things had gone differently. This happened a couple of years ago when I was a senior in high school living in Southern California. It was later in the evening, sometime between 8 o'clock and 8:30. My mom and I had just gotten home from a long day of driving and visiting family when we realized our cat was completely out of food. I was exhausted and didn't want to go to Petco, but my mom begged me to come with her. After a lot of convincing, I finally gave in. Looking back now, I'm extremely grateful that I went, because if I hadn't, I truly believe my mom might not have come home that night. One important detail to mention is that my mom's car had extremely tinted windows, making it nearly impossible to see inside. When we pulled into the Petco parking lot, I looked around and saw only a few cars, one of which was parked a few rows behind us. My mom told me to wait in the car since she was just running in quickly to grab the food. A minute after she walked away, when she was about halfway to the store, the car that had been parked a few rows back suddenly pulled into the spot right next to ours, on the passenger side. I thought it was a little strange, but maybe the person just wanted a closer spot. Then, I saw a man step out of the car, grab his large German Shepherd from the back, and walk into the store. As I glanced through the store windows, I noticed him watching my mom and following her around. He wasn't close enough for her to notice, but it was clear that he was keeping an eye on her. He eventually got ahead of her in line, and after checking out, he stood right outside the entrance, waiting. When my mom walked out of the store, the man silently began following her. At this point, I was getting a very bad feeling. When she reached our car and opened the back to put the cat food inside, the man opened the back of his car, right next to ours, and started talking to her, motioning for her to come look at something inside. My mom, completely oblivious, took a few steps toward him and peered into the back of his car. That's when I saw his hands moving toward his waist. Immediately, I started yelling for her to get into the car right now. The man looked completely startled. I'm guessing he had no idea I was in the car because of the tinted windows. He instantly stopped talking to her. My mom looked confused, but after I kept yelling, she finally got in. The man took one last look at our car before hopping into his and speeding off. Once inside, I asked my mom what he had said to her. She told me he was trying to show her something he had bought for his dog in the back of his car. I told her everything I had observed and that I was almost certain he had been trying to abduct her. It was a shocking and eye-opening experience for both of us. This happened back in January of 2018. It took me a few years, and a little bit of therapy, to even be able to talk about it. But I'm okay now, so I thought I'd share. It's a bit long, but buckle up. I was part of a study abroad program in Bangkok, which, for the record, was awesome. Not long after arriving, my fellow students and I went out for a night on the town. After some drinking and running amok in the city, we somehow ended up in a back alley, illegal strip club. I should mention, I'm female. And that night, I was the only female in our group. We were only there for about 15 minutes, but I saw things I will never unsee. Things that still keep me up at night. Let's just say it was blatantly obvious that the women working there did not want to be there. Very quickly, I also did not want to be there. About 5 minutes in, I noticed two guys from my group talking to a man in a red polo shirt. Actually, there were several men in red polo shirts scattered throughout the room, and none of them looked like the kind of people you'd want to be around. One of my friends, let's call him M, came back over to me, laughing. He pointed at the red shirt guy and said, "Hey, he's trying to get me to sell you to him for $10 American." I keep telling him you're worth more, but 10 is the highest he'll go. I have never noped out of a situation so fast in my entire life. Luckily, the others left with me. I'm an experienced traveler, so I used this as a learning moment for M. I explained how quickly these situations can go south and how important it is to always be on guard in a foreign country. I thought he got the message. We had all gotten out safely, so no harm, no foul. That said, I became more withdrawn from the group after that. While they partied every single night, I stuck to school, occasional meals out, and daytime shopping at the markets. Sometimes, I'd hang out at a high-end spa near the hotel. For $20 to $50 American, you could get pampered like a queen, and as a broke college kid, I took full advantage. 2 other girls joined me on these adventures, and overall, we had a great time. Then, right before we were scheduled to return home, my classmates, okay, it was all M, finally convinced me to go out for one last night. We ended up at a busy strip full of street food vendors, tourists eating scorpions on sticks, and absolute chaos. Some dumb girl from Australia, who had joined our group, took a hit of some gas they were selling on the street and immediately vomited everywhere. The place was packed elbow to elbow, with rave-style lights, blasting music, and full sensory overload. I figured, if there was ever a time to drink and party in a foreign country, this was it. So the drinking started. The partying began. And with drinking, of course, eventually comes the need for a restroom. I told him I was going to find one and would be right back. M, however, chose that exact moment to start hammering back drinks and demanding everyone's attention. Classic. I was gone for 10 minutes, tops. When I came back, everyone was gone. I later found out that the Aussies left, and the rest of my group had to chase down M when he ran off in a drunken display for attention. But at that moment, I had no idea what happened. I walked over to the entrance of the strip, where we had all been dropped off, and sat at a picnic table near the cabs to wait. An hour passed. Then 2. Then 2.5. It was almost 1 a.m. The street was still packed, but I hadn't seen a single person from my group. That's when I started to panic. I realized I had no idea where we were. The others had been coming to this strip every night, but this was my first time. I didn't have the hotel address written down in English or Thai. And I did not speak Thai. Okay. Time to think. Luckily, I hadn't had a drink in 2.5 hours, so I was sobering up. I remembered that tuk-tuks, those open-wheel, 3-wheeled cabs, were much cheaper than regular taxis. What I didn't realize was that taking a tuk-tuk alone at 1 a.m. as a foreign woman was a very bad idea. I showed the driver my room key, thinking that would be enough to tell him where I needed to go. What a naive child I was. We negotiated a price, and I hopped in. Immediately, he drove in the opposite direction from where we had originally arrived. We had taken a highway to get here, but now, he was sticking to residential streets. Then, he turned into an alley. Red alert. He stopped the tuk-tuk. I tensed, ready to fight if I needed to. To my left, a garage door rolled up, and a group of men walked out. One of them was holding a blue purse. He started walking toward me, unzipping the purse as he moved. I didn't stick around to find out what was inside. I bolted. I barely managed to shake off the tuk-tuk driver. I just kept running, one foot in front of the other, crying because I couldn't breathe. I kept thinking, I'm going to die because I never bothered to go to the gym. I ran until I saw it. A beacon of safety. A 7-Eleven, sitting in the middle of this random Thai neighborhood. I sprinted inside like the Kool-Aid man busting through a wall. The cashier started yelling at me to get out in Thai. I was yelling back in English, frantically explaining that my tuk-tuk driver had just tried to sell me and that I was not going anywhere. We went back and forth like this for a solid minute, me begging for help, him yelling for me to leave, when suddenly, this tiny, 4-foot-tall elderly Thai woman approached. She was pushing a grocery cart full of 2-liter bottles of Pepsi. She took my hand. She took my room key. She didn't say a single word. She led me outside, hailed a cab, and had a full 60-second conversation with the driver. Then she gently pushed me into the back seat. The scariest part of the whole night? That 15-minute cab ride back to my hotel. I had no way of knowing if that little Thai woman had actually helped me, or if she had just sold me to the highest bidder. At one point, the cab driver had to stop and ask for directions. I think that was the moment I knew this was going to haunt me for a long time. When we finally reached my hotel, the fare came out to $10 American. I tipped him $60. You know, for not trying to sell me as a slave. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.